Well, guys, you know who's not getting any parts of the profits are the Snow White team. And I want to talk to you for a little bit about the aftermath of the Snow White disaster. And it is a disaster. Even all the shill media who was saying, like, hey, Disney haters, like you were wrong about Snow White, are
John Camp,
admitting
yeah.
that this movie is a bona fide
Sequels.
flop. And Variety recently had this little expose where it's inside Disney's Snow White fiasco, death threats, beefed up security, and a social media guru for Rachel Zegler.
I love how they forget about Dinklage throughout this whole entire
Yeah.
article too. The thing that actually set the entire thing off.
Dinklage the douchebag.
Yeah, but the big thing right now is focusing on Rachel Zegler because Sony seems very adamant to hang this failure on her. But
Disney,
what's
you said Sony, but yeah.
Sorry, Disney. Well, they're the same thing.
I knew what you meant.
But I want to go to the biggest Disney shareholder on the panel, Brian from the Popcast. Brian, so like, you on the Brain Show, you kind of talk about politics. So I wanted to bring this up. So essentially what happened here is that Rachel Zegler, during the course of her promotion for the movie, her contractually obligated promotion, she then did a reply that said, free Palestine, which got way more attention than the actual like promotional tweet that she did.
Right.
And what happened because of this is that it got a lot of attention from, the pro-Palestinian movement, and they started issuing death threats against Gal Gadot when they found out that she was Israeli. And Disney actually had to pay for private security to protect Gal Gadot from all these death threats, along with her family. So do you think that actors should get political, especially if it's when they endanger the lives of their co-stars?
No. Like, okay, so they're employees, right? They're employees of Disney. When they're out there doing press, especially when they're doing press for the movie that they were paid to be in, they quite literally are working for a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if you're working at McDonald's, and everyone that came up to the window, you would say free Palestine. How long before they fired you? Or whatever, anything political.
What if you said fuck clowns?
Or F clowns, right. Whatever.
Clownist.
The second you got political at your job and started harassing customers, that's essentially what she does to us, you'd be fired. Which is why, like, that producer had to like fly out there in the middle of a work week, and basically reprimand this young entitled idiot to say stop what you're doing, because she is an employee of Disney. When she is doing press, she is quite literally working for Disney. It's part of her job. It's part of her contract that she's got to go do press. She's got to do these junkets. She's got to go out there and promote the movie. And if your promotion is making it so that the movie will be unsuccessful and lose the company money, then you are doing the opposite of what the company is paying you to do. So no. Look, I'm all about free speech. Have free speech. But there has to be consequences when you're working for a business.
They should put some kind of stipulations in their contracts that when they're doing press that they're going to stay on stay on topic. Yeah,
Right. In the military, Adam, when you're wearing uniform, you can't go out there and promote things, right?
Oh yeah,
It's the same concept. Like, she's wearing the Disney uniform, so you can't be out there promoting anything but the movie. Not Palestine, not Israel, nothing. You're wearing the Disney uniform, so shut the F up and promote Disney, and then go home. And when you're done with Disney and you take the uniform off, then talk about free Palestine all you want. I don't care.
That's a great comparison. You're absolutely right. That in the military, you got to stay apolitical. Great comparison. Yeah, she was wearing the uniform. Yeah, she needs to shut the fuck up. And actually, I was just looking this up because I never even thought to look this up before, because I knew Gal Gadot was not just she's not just from Israel, but she was in the Israeli army.
Yeah, she was in the army.
She was even in during the 34-day conflict between Lebanon and northern Israel for the 2006 Israel.
She's an actual soldier, so
yeah. Now, I think she was like a desk jockey, though. She wasn't like on the front line or anything.
I'm sure, but when you talk about all these like 90-pound women like throwing men around and stuff in these movies, what's funny is like the only person of recently that I know that can probably do that training wise would be Gal Gadot. which is funny.
Gina Carano
actually served in
Gina
the
Carano, yeah.
Israeli Defense Force. She was also Miss Israel. This article said. I didn't know that.
Gal Gadot is absolutely.
Israel has mandatory service, right? For anybody.
Yeah, they're one of those ones. Yeah, you're required, I think, to 2 years in the military.
Yeah. So I want to throw this to Odin real quick. So Odin, this came out on social media recently, where the son of the producer of Snow White just destroyed some of these Rachel Zegler defenders. So you have this person who said, your dad flew to New York City to reprimand a young actress. Any words on this? Because that's creepy as hell and uncalled for. People have the right to free speech. No, shame on your father. And then Jonah Platt, he says, you really want to do this? Yeah, my dad, the producer of enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie, for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid to do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all of her colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged. And what's interesting is that in the Variety article, they talk about how this producer went out not once, but twice to warn Rachel Zegler to dial it back on social media because it's going to hurt.
At least she didn't get fired like Gina Carano.
She refused. She refused to do it, and then Disney had to pay a social media expert to basically come in and handle her social media accounts for her so that she didn't have direct control over them. So, Odin, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this on FNT last night about how oftentimes people in today's world, especially people like Rachel Zegler, forget that in order for there to be rights, there have to be corresponding duties and responsibilities. So when we have this understanding of a right to free speech, we have to recognize that it comes with the duty and responsibility to use that speech well. To not call death on other people, for instance, right? To not try to hurt other people in any way, like in a direct way, where you're like, you're in a mob of people and you're just like, seize that person, and taking advantage of that kind of stuff. Right? Seize them. Seize them and do harm. And also that it is not, and I teach this to my classes too, right? The freedom itself is, by its definition, also not absolute, right? Even though we might have the capacity to do anything, we do not really have the freedom to do anything without consequence. Right. And that's the big thing here, is that there's consequences for our actions. And when you are, as the person mentioned, a private, part of a private company, part of, a private employee as a part of this production, you have a responsibility, right, to try to promote your film. And in fact, in their contracts, to my knowledge, there is usually something there saying, hey, but guess what? Not only are we paying you to be in the movie, we're also paying you for this X amount of time to afterwards be available for press junkets and all these other things. Right. So they are being paid for this. So she was being paid to put out a tweet to support the film. And so by putting in Free Palestine, I'm actually surprised, and it's probably because Disney was exceptionally woke at the time. Probably should have gotten even, sued or penalized in some way by Disney, because she clearly, did something that actually damaged their movie and damaged their product. So I think that this is a big lesson for her. Chris Gore was mentioning this the other day. He had a great rant on one of his live streams, and is basically saying how, even though she is an adult, right? She's like 23 years old, Rachel Zegler. She is acting like a child, right? Because it's children who act in an emotional way. It's children who cannot control themselves, right? Adults, and the thing that distinguishes adults from children is that we can feel angry and pissed off, but we also have the capacity to say, yep, you know what? I'm not going to do that. It's not wise for me to do. She does not have that capacity, clearly. So I think that she probably needed a father figure in her life, or whatever father figure she had probably needed to do a bit more to be that firm ground of responsibility to teach her, because it seems like she wasn't really taught it, and this is a life lesson. And I think that she's going to learn quickly. Yeah, good luck. You're going to have a bunch of success, I imagine, in theater, amongst your community, right, in the theater, and maybe small independent projects. But I think she has killed any chance of her getting any other major roles, which is kind of crazy. Like, she could have had a massive career off of the films that she has been in, but she's thwarted it because of her stupidity.
I've got this image in my head of him going to New York and knocking on her door and her opening it up, and she's like, "Oh no!" And he goes, "Rachel, give me your phone. Give me your phone right now.
Yeah.
You are grounded, girl, young lady. You've been very bad on the Twitters. You cannot say this stuff. You're grounded for 2 weeks. Give me your phone right now."
Yep.
You know.
Also, I want to point out the hypocrisy.
Well, hold on a sec,
I was
Adam.
gonna say
'cause
that, yeah,
I'm
same
going to get
thing,
to I'm going to get to you in a second. I'm going to get to you in a second as well, Tom. But apparently Steven Spielberg did try to warn her about some of this stuff, and she just kind of ignored him. But what's also interesting here is that Disney has like a long track record of allowing actors with the right politics to basically just go off on social media and say anything they want. Pedro Pascal is a perfect example of that. In fact, he got rewarded by getting cast in Marvel movies and things of that nature. But Adam, one of the interesting things here is, and Tom brought this up earlier, is that Rachel Zegler got a social media handler. Gina Carano got fired. The Disney double standard. And in the Variety article, they actually talk about how Disney may have not stamped down on Rachel Zegler's, political tweets because they were being sued by Gina Carano at the time. And so like they were kind of like between a rock and a hard place with like, okay, will we get sued again by Rachel Zegler if we like clamp down on her, or should we just let her keep going because we kind of agree with her, or like whatever the case may be. So what's your take on the difference between Rachel Zegler and Gina Carano in Disney's eyes?
Amazing question, because that's exactly what I was about to say is the hypocrisy. I'm a big Gina Carano fan. That's me, a picture with her at MegCon 2 years ago. The hypocrisy there can be compared exactly to right now the Signalgate that's happening in government. The fact that there was a woke anti-Trumper involved in a Signal chat that was talking about battle plans that was happening. After that happened, all of the left is calling for people's heads to be chopped off, people to be fired. Yeah. Guess what? Remember, does anyone recall what happened after 13 of our service members was killed at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan? Silence. No calls for firings. Nobody was fired. Nobody was held accountable at all. It's the exact same thing with this. Only obviously that was much worse. I mean, there should have been impeachments after that debacle. But yeah, same thing here. Gina Carano got fired for saying beep, bop, boop. And now you got Rachel Zegler saying free Palestine and everything else, all the other examples that you're talking about, nothing. The hypocrisy is amazing. It just depends on where you align politically. If you are okay with the trans movement, if you are against this, that's all they freaking care about. It's hypocrisy. And you know what? I was just talking to friends of mine just yesterday, I think. We need to make shame great again. We need to shame these people for their ridiculous stances, for the stupid crap that they say, and we need to hold people accountable because this is dumb. This is so dumb, and we need
bring back bowling.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we need really, and that means equality of standards. If someone's going to get fired for this, then this person needs to get fired for that. Or just don't fucking fire somebody for a freaking tweet like beep, bop, boop. How about that?
Well, Tom, earlier in the live stream, you mentioned a certain movie by Jason Statham, which if I even bring up his name in my wife's presence, she gets ready to file for divorce. But basically,
I thought that was going a completely different direction there.
No, because of the Meg, she hates Jason Statham.
Oh, for crying out loud!
With a passion. But basically, the working man has come out in Snow White's second week, and already right here we're seeing that it's basically making the same amount, if not a little bit more
pulling
money.
Ahead. It's pulling ahead, actually.
Than Snow White. So, what's your take on the second week of the Snow White box office and how the male-centric, working man Jason Statham action movie is kicking its ass?
Well, first of all, I just want to say about Gina, it's very hypocritical, and I don't know what I did to piss her off to unfollow me, but Gina, forgive me. But yeah, no, I think it's hilarious. I think it's a good sign. I mean, we gripe constantly about wanting new original material, and here we have a really decent Jason Statham movie that is produced by Sylvester Stallone, co-written by Sylvester Stallone and director David Ayer. based on Chuck Dixon's novel Levin's Trade, or Levon's Trade. They pronounce it Levin in the film, and the movie's good. Is it perfect? No, but it's a great time at the cinema for 2 hours, and most guys are going to enjoy it. Most women probably will enjoy it too. It has a lot of the same kind of things we used to love about classic westerns and 80s and 90s action films, and it's the type of movie Stallone would have made in the 90s, and I think people are responding to that, as opposed to Snow White, where there's no good reason to go see Snow White. Anybody and everybody who was going to go see it went and seen it, and I don't really think that the kids are really into it all that much. I kind of predicted this was going to happen anyhow, but I'm sure most of us thought it was going to do bad. But I've been saying for a while, it's not like Snow White is in the top probably 25, most well-known properties as far as little girls go, right? When it comes to Disney, she's not even in the top 5. So at this point, nobody's surprised. But I'm more surprised that Working Man is doing as well as it is. It is being released worldwide, so it'll be interesting to see what the final numbers are for the film. But I think it's a good thing. I don't know what the budget was on it. I don't know if Odin has any idea on that, but I'm surprised it's doing a little bit better than I anticipated it would, and I hope it does demolish Snow White by the end of the weekend, because it'd be hilarious.
Nothing official budget-wise. 40 million though is what's being floated around, because that was the same as the Beekeeper.
Real quick, before I get to Dutch Butters, Odin, what can you tell us about the second week drop-off of Snow White?
It's not looking good. So going into the weekend, it was already being projected to drop between 60 and 65%, which is about what you typically see on a Marvel film. So we're talking about that kind of drop-off you would see after a movie comes out, where you have this huge audience of people going to see it opening weekend, and then a bunch of people who are like, oh, I wanted to wait until the second weekend to go see it, going the second. And so massive drop-off in that regards. And so having that happen for a kids movie is catastrophic. So we're already looking at that 77% drop Friday to Friday. That's also, again, pretty high. What'll be interesting is, and we won't know for sure what the Saturday and Sundays look like, because the Saturday especially is when the families ultimately come out, when most kids and families go to the movies. So that's going to tell us a little bit more. But I just put out, or working on a tweet right now. At the same time, at the end of the second weekend globally, the Marvels, because people are kind of comparing it to that film, but globally, that film had made 161 million by the end of its second weekend. Right now, this movie, Snow White, is at 100 million. And I think we're probably only going to see it get upwards of maybe 125-ish by the end of this weekend. So this film is tracking behind it. And though I do think it's going to beat the Marvel's domestic number, because it is doing better domestically versus the Marvels, internationally it is not. So you could still see this film make about as much as the Marvels, which was only about $200 million worldwide, which is, again, catastrophic for this.
So, Dutch, there is this rumor that Disney is trying to hang the entirety of the failure on Rachel Zegler. But not to be outdone, the legacy media is circling the wagons and pulling a Hunter Biden laptop on this. Basically, by Thursday morning, over 50 journalists had signed an open letter to Variety, strongly condemning their article about, Rachel Zegler tanking this movie. And it's so typical, isn't it, that basically, like, Variety reports this expose, which basically fairly competently breaks down what the problems were leading up to this movie's release. And then 50 journalists sign a letter saying, "You're wrong. How dare you?" What's your take?
What was funny is going into the weekend, they also had an article that was trying to trash Gal Gadot and throw her under the bus prior to the film for her support of Israel, and blaming her for this whole thing. But anyway, you were asking, my bad.
No, I don't know. I don't really know what to say. I think these journalists are probably all on the Disney payroll, right? I don't know. I don't know. It seems very strange that they would all go out there and condemn this. I really don't know how to answer your question, Matt. So they wrote an article condemning Rachel Zegler, and then all the other entertainment journalists condemned it. I guess they don't. None of the other ones wanted. I'm sorry, I'm crashing here. I don't know what to think. I really don't know what to think about that.
Well, what's weird, Dutch, is basically Rachel Zegler seems to be beloved by the media
Yeah.
and hated by everyone else. And so I'm just wondering, like, what the motivation is to protect her instead of just like move on.
Well, she's little queen of the wokies, right? That would make more sense, because got all these woke people out there who want to probably protect their own. So, I mean, I guess if you look at it like that, it makes a little bit of sense.
It's because she's a brown woman. It would be racist and sexist to fire her.
Yeah.
It's because of her vocal support of Palestine, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Like,
Because
that
of her
has become
hairy-
such a hairy back. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's because of her hairy back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't ask me hard questions, Matt. Don't do that anymore. Okay.
It's feminism. You know what isn't hard though, Dutch? Or super chats. And we got one from Marks47 for $2. Again, apologies, Marks, for missing your OMB super chat last week. I need some beep bop boop in my life. Gina. Yes, indeed. I think we could all use some beep bop boop, but it wasn't beep bop boop that got her that got her the struggle session, right, Adam? But it was actually like this meme she put up about like the Holocaust.
Yeah,
got her fired.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, everyone remembers the beep bop boop thing that raised a lot of controversy. But yeah, she made the comparison because back in the day of the Yahtzees, will be YouTube safe about that. That she said, back in those days, they called on neighbors to rat on neighbors, about being Jewish or whatever. And that's the modern day thing that's happening, is that we're calling on people to call out people who are sexist, racist, homophobic, istophobic, phobophobes. And that's the comparison that she made. And they all went up in flames. Oh, she's comparing things to Yahtzees. But again, there's the hypocrisy again, because that's all they do. They call our current president literally Hitler. and they get away with that. Yeah, Gina got fired for it.